Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevated Frequency Podcast. My name is Shannon Morse, and I am the co founder of The Green Door Life. And today I'm here with the pretty incredible, if I do say so myself, Connor Pritchard. Welcome, Connor.
Hi, everyone. Good to be
Excellent.
here.
It's great to be here with you. So, Connor very graciously accepted the invitation to speak a little bit about what it has been like going through our Awaken Your Nutrition men's program, which we just launched for the first time last fall. And thank you so much for just being willing to share about the experience. And so, also, welcome to the show. We're very happy to have you. So let's just start from the beginning. And before we dive in, can you tell us a little about yourself, who you are, where you live, and what did your life look like before the Awaken Your Nutrition program?
Got it. So short bullet point bio.
Mhm.
I was, born in San Francisco, raised by comedians, which is a crazy backstory. But my father was a stand-up comedian. My mom managed a comedy club. And I grew up in a house where storytelling was the currency. Like, they didn't care about grades or um, advancements in career. We all went out into the world and brought back stories and shared them over dinner. So naturally became a writer and went down to Hollywood after college and spent about 15 years in the Hollywood trenches, creating TV shows, running TV shows, trying to sell movies. And that all led to kind of a big crisis that we can get into a little bit later. Around the age of 39, I decided that path wasn't the right path anymore. I'm a writer and I have been a screenwriter for a long time, but now I'm kind of evolving.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a pretty big shift to go from being in the trenches of Hollywood for 15 years to, okay, I'm actually going to do something else.
Yeah.
So a big identity shift is generally
Yeah.
wrapped up into that experience. With that, you're a dad and you're going through this career shift. So there's two massive life transitions. So how were those challenges impacting your health and your energy and your overall well-being before you joined our program?
Yeah. Good question. So my wife is a life coach who has like a beautiful mind brain for pattern recognition.
Mm.
And as Hollywood and the economic model was kind of really falling apart and the paths to sustainability in terms of a career were getting harder and harder, she started reflecting back to me that my mindset, my vocabulary around this path was starting to sound like an addict. And I was starting to make desperate decisions. It was affecting my health. I was kind of addicted to not like crazy substances, but like the stimulant substances that kind of keep your energy up. And then it would lead to big crashes, and I would go through cycles of depression or moodiness and inactivity. So when I really realized that selling movies and TV shows was starting to feel like an addiction, it really made me take a step back and readdress my whole lifestyle.
Man, that is really an interesting thing just to look at addiction, not only as we know it culturally as gambling and shopping and substance abuse, but actually perhaps even looking at addiction as being beholden to something that doesn't serve you and you keep doing it anyways.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think I read it's actually Irresistible by Adam Alter. I think it was in that book, but it's the gambler does not, it's not about winning and losing. It's about the coin being in the air and about living in the realm of possibilities. I could win, I could lose. So when you put together a big TV show and you get a movie or a big actor and a director on it, and it's in motion and you're waiting for the like pass fail, that is an intoxicating feeling of I could have my life changed. I could be in a whole different tax bracket in a few months. It becomes an addiction. And it is scary because you don't see yourself fully committing to it until it's kind of too late.
Right. As you're sharing that, I'm having different images kind of cross through my mind of seeing either clients that I've worked with or examples in my personal or professional life where that plays out, where you see individuals just really struggling in feeling stuck in their job, in their family, in their relationship, because they are in that cycle of addiction, of
Yeah.
that limbo, the liminal space where everything's just up in the air and you're just holding your breath until it crashes.
Yep.
And I really think that's a powerful way to look at it. And I appreciate it so much. And it also sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. You're doubling down and then doubling down again and doubling down after that. And it starts to lead to moments of insanity because it's not working. And then you also get on I think it's Brene Brown. You're pretty stuck on the Brene Brown resentment cycle where you're giving your sovereignty away to something or someone else, and then it's not working out. And then you're building up a huge reserve of rage and resentment. And then it kind of resets. So then you're like, okay, well, that didn't work, but I'll give my sovereignty and freedom and time away to something else. It doesn't work. Rage, resentment, that kind of carries over into the motivation. It's tough to break.
It actually sounds a little bit like cycles of codependency wrapped up in that as well.
Yep. That's,
Okay.
yeah, well said.
Yeah. And we usually relate to codependency as being like in personal relationships, and we've adopted it from our parents and things like that. But I think what's very powerful about this and super helpful for people listening is that if we can see that codependency can also be manifesting in our work life,
Yep.
that's a very powerful realization. And so when you got to that place, was there kind of this breaking point for you? And what did that look like for your health?
Yeah. For the health, I was clearly overdoing it on a lot of caffeine and nicotine, which I still need to break. And other substances to kind of keep the edge of energy going. And then it would
Mhm.
lead to crashes and health problems. I think it was just an overall extremist mentality that wasn't serving me. After the program, I have really started to embrace more sustainable practices. And I'm not young anymore. I'm 42 and like I can't work hard, play hard and work 7 days a week, and I have to be more balanced in every facet of my life.
Well, you don't have to, but you're choosing to,
Yes, exactly.
because
Yeah.
you could keep doing what you're doing and experience that repercussion, but you are actively choosing a different path.
Yeah.
And so what made you say, okay, yes, I need to do this. I need to move my focus to build some foundational habits for sustainability? What
Yeah.
was that kind of shift?
Well, there's a specific moment, and I'm going to throw my wife under the bus, but it's kind of funny. I remember when I crash and want to turn the world off, I want to numb and just watch a cozy movie. I was in bed and I'd put on some weight, and my wife got into bed after putting our daughter down. I had my shirt off and she kind of grabbed and my wife is the best. Like we tease each other in fun ways, but she grabbed the kind of rolls of my belly that don't exist anymore. But she grabbed the rolls and she was squeezing them together and doing a voice called Big Belly Pete. She's like, "Oh, Big Belly Pete." Using my stomach to talk to me was kind of going, "Hey, you need to get back in the gym. You need to kind of prioritize your health," and doing it in a teasing but loving way. That moment, I was like, this is not okay. I need to change. And I was looking for something else. And then before I joined the program, I found this boxer who's a Ukrainian boxer named Alexander Usyk. I watched a video of him dancing to this really fun EDM song, and he's so full of joy, but he's also a complete savage, that it became the thing that was the spark that led to me crawling out of the hole. I had a few endeavors and businesses not work, and you're blaming yourself. And then I see this guy dancing and doing what he loves and being so full of joy and also being so masculine. And I was like, I want that. I want that energy in my life. And then the Green Door and the offer to do the first nutrition group came along about a week later. So it's kind of cool, divine timing.
I love that. I didn't know that about the story with the boxer. So that's so cool. And such a great representation as well of sometimes when we don't know what direction to go to have an archetype to model after,
Yes. Yeah.
or just having like a feeling where, oh, that's what I want it to look and feel like.
Yeah. And I think it's really hard for men to find balanced men archetypes and mentors. And you could look at someone and they're extremely successful, but they're also very flawed and they don't talk to their family. So this guy who I have really come to admire just became that kind of new model for me. And I think
Yeah,
men also learn through absorption and kind of like modeling themselves or being around other men. It kind of became the new way for me, the new mentality.
I love it so much. Having that archetype to follow is just really powerful, actually making me think about why we exist as a company is because we are an archetype
Yeah.
for others to follow.
Yep.
Very cool.
Exactly.
So, moving from there, we actually spent some time in France together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just looking at images yesterday, trying to find a photo to put on our cover. And I was looking at a photo of you and thinking to myself, you have actually really transformed quite a lot.
Yeah, I went from for anyone that understands like the archetypes of a football team, I went from a offensive lineman to a linebacker. So I was about 250 pounds and now I'm under 220.
Man, that is incredible. I saw your frame and then I remember seeing you when you visited here recently. And it just dawned on me how much had shifted. And so that's so cool. As I go into this next question here, when I think about men joining our program, obviously we are two women, like Lisa and myself, and you know Lisa from your youth, because I think you guys went to high school together.
Yep, she was my first homecoming date. My first high school kiss too.
Wow, it is a small world. When you decided to start with this program, had you ever done anything like it? Like, had you ever been in a group of men who were really there just to solely focus on bettering themselves?
Shockingly, no. I had been a part of many sports teams and joined gyms of different kinds, but I had never been in a men's group that was there for vulnerability, self improvement, a shared goal, which was shocking to get into your 40s and to realize that that's not a case. And I think a lot of people used to do it through church, religion, but that's kind of not really a thing anymore. So it was the first time that I had joined a men's group and it was really impactful.
Wow. Well, I'm very honored that it was with us.
Yeah.
And I'm really stoked that you had such a great experience. I got to watch from the sidelines as I was leading Coach Nate to format the calls and, go through that experience. And it was a really beautiful thing to see men that were out to do big things in the world coming together and just vulnerably being open
Yeah.
and learning from each other in that way. And rewinding a little bit, before you joined, did you have any fears or doubts about joining?
Well, I knew a little bit about Green Door and I was worried. I have a story brain. I am a writer. That's how I process the world. So I was worried about the science aspect of it. I'm not a STEM brain. I'm not good at math. So I was worried that I was going to get buried in kind of some of the science of it and not understand it and fall behind. I knew that the tone of the group that you guys would set would be great. I'm an open book, so I'm not afraid of sharing with a group of people. I think it was just like I was worried that it was going to be something that I would learn and not integrate, right?
Mm,
And I would move on and be like, oh yeah, I kind of understand nutrition, but it's not really my thing. And I'd take away 10% of it and kind of incorporate it, but not all of it.
I love that,
Yep.
hearing that now, because what actually happened?
Yet what actually happened? I mean, it was pretty life changing. I think what happened to me, I've been through some pretty profound changes, but I became a dad 2 years ago. The sheer amount of stuff that you have to do on a daily basis just to maintain a household, like exponentially expands. And what was happening was I was putting myself, my priorities, and especially my health at the bottom of the priority list. Take
Mhm.
care of my women first, take care of work stuff, and then if I have time, focus on my health or nutrition. And
Mhm.
doing this class inverted that entire priorities list. If I don't maintain a healthy and stable practice for my health and nutrition, then I can't take care of my girls effectively. It reset my priorities as a writer. My favorite thing in the world is being alone with a blank page and 5 hours with nothing to do and just doing a deep dive. And that was always the time that I was protecting, right? From
Mm.
all parts of the world. But with this approach, like this tracking my food, eating the right thing, planning out meals became the foundation of my life, not my actual creative practice. And it was important too, because at our age now, it's like you've gotten close to mastering your field, like becoming a master in your arena. And I hadn't
Mhm.
really accepted that of I don't need all the time in the world to do what I do because I'm really good at it now. And I need to have a different priority and a different foundation moving forward on a day-to-day basis. So that was pretty profoundly impactful for me just to change that.
Wow, absolutely. And I also wanna acknowledge that some people will learn s things about nutrition science, things about exercise science, but I feel like there was, like, a vulnerability and a humbleness with you and just, like, an open mindset of, "Hey, we're just gonna do the thing and see what happens." And there wasn't a lot of resistance with you, which I think is really, really helpful. It
Yeah.
felt like you were coming in at a place where you were in this state of transition and you were ready to build foundations for
Yeah.
a new way of interacting with life.
Yeah. My wife and I have this theory that stories create new systems and systems create new stories. It's kind of all interconnected. But I knew after a few setbacks and failures, the I can outwardly go through the world and people are like, oh, that's a happy, balanced person. But internally, my self-talk was really negative, and I was
Mm.
connecting a decade plus of mistakes and setbacks, and I was really beating myself up a lot. And I knew that if I was going to change the story that was being told from myself to myself in my head, I had to readdress all of the systems in my life and like start from scratch. And I had a good moment to do it because it was kind of a crash and burn, and my last company didn't work. And I had this stretch of time to be like, let's move everything off the table and start from step one. So that timing of starting the nutrition course was perfect.
Timing is
Yeah.
everything. It really is. Perfect timing for this. And what kind of surprised you the most? So as you were going through it and implementing some of the changes, what were the things where you were surprised or even things that you thought might be difficult that were actually quite easy?
Yeah. I mean, it is hard. Like you get complex systems thrown at you pretty quickly. You're on a bunch of new apps and you kind of take a step back. You're like, wow, this feels like it could take my life over.
Mhm.
But then I remember Chanley, one of the coaches, is like, if you're going to do this, you have to embrace the data. And as a non-science story person, when that was explained and why it was important to do that, it really shifted my mentality of I'm just collecting data for a new version of me. And
Mhm.
embracing that as my call to action was a big turning point in the program. I think it was about week 3. And then when I write a story, I research and I fill up notebooks of stuff, and I'm just doing the same thing. I'm collecting data that I can use to rebuild myself. And that's when the tracking became much easier. That's when the research became much easier.
Mm.
And that was a big shift of you just need new information about yourself.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm having a realization right now because you are, I'm going to say, the master of story. And I am a master of courses, and there's a big similarity between the two.
yeah,
And when I design courses, I think of the storyline that someone is going to go through.
yeah,
And the first week to week 3 is generally speaking when people get confronted with what it feels like when things are hard
yeah,
or more challenging than they might have expected or anticipated. And they get to witness themselves going, can I do this? Is this
Yep.
for me? And whatever resistance comes up. So it's part of the learning experience of self.
Yep.
And then that's the initial learning curve. And then from weeks 3 to 5, people start to get into this little rhythm
Yep.
and they start to go, oh, wait a second. I kind of like this.
Yeah.
Feeling better. My clothes are fitting better. I'm actually noticing my body's changing rather
Yep.
quickly. And then, generally speaking, at around week 6 or 7, which is when we bring in that mindset and inner dialogue concept,
Yep.
there's something that happens in life. And we've talked about this when our conversations earlier this year about the hero's journey, where that week 6 to 7, something hard happens in life and it knocks us off of our new habitual pattern
Yep.
so that we get an experience of what our default mode still is.
Yep. Yep.
And when we get that experience, we get to actually feel in our body in real time. When I am in my default mode, I don't feel very good.
Yes.
And when I have my new habits that I am literally paving the way for right now, I feel better.
Yep.
And then the opportunity is to realize that there's choice in everything that we do. And then to start to make those choices in the remaining 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
So that it actually comes from a place of I am now fully conscious of the unconscious patterns that I've been living with,
Yep.
how they feel in my body, and then what I can do to actually make a change here.
Yep. Yep. That's very well said. And I think our class lined up with some of the holidays. So we had on the hero's journey structure, we had the ordeal of Thanksgiving. How do you carry this? Like integrity is like living in alignment with your values. How do you carry these new values through these decisions? And it did kind of present options and tests for you to kind of surpass and evolve, or to fall back, like you said, to default mode. So it was very well structured in terms of hitting like allowing people to catch up and integrate the systems, and then getting to the mindset that then makes it sustainable at the kind of halfway point.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. That was the
Yeah.
first time I actually thought of it like story.
Yeah. No, it is, you could almost lay the hero's journey structure over it and it would work.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I mean, I can predict where people are based on how they started their track,
Yeah.
based on the resistance that showed up for them or didn't show up in the
Yeah.
first week or 2 of their program. I can predict almost 90% because I've done this with thousands of people.
Yeah.
It's really, really fascinating. So thank you for
Yeah. And I mean, another thing on that point too is, I think myself, maybe a lot of men, we do live from the head up, and we ignore like we almost treat our bodies like an enemy in your
Mm,
story. I'm going to ignore it. I have pain in my knee or inflammation, or my back kind of hurts, or I'm hungry. I just ignore it, like shove it down. And going through this program in that pocket from the 3 to 5 weeks where you're really starting to learn, there was a shift of viewing my body as an enemy, and it turned into an ally of like, oh, if
mm.
I actually, like for me, this course, I built a relationship with my body for the first time. And I was able to
Wow.
listen to it for the first time and go, oh, that pain means I need more of this, or that feeling of being a little lethargic needs I haven't hydrated enough. And so I was able to kind of almost like when you're editing something and you have the different audio tracks, I was able to kind of feel all the different wavelengths or energy in my body and pinpoint it to specific things that we learned in the class. So that was like, I mean, it was like being able to edit your life on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. That is the most powerful takeaway because what you learned are the signs and signals of your body. They
Yeah.
are specific to you.
Yeah.
And it won't show up in the same way for other people. And that goes with any area that we're trying to rework in life, whether it's our emotional intelligence or how we cognitively function or whatever, but especially with the physical, it becomes so much almost easier to experience because you can see it
Yeah.
too. And there's not a lot of, our emotions and our thoughts we can't really see. We have to be really, really present to be able to notice them. And it's thank you for bringing it up. It is the coolest thing because we're essentially teaching individuals to listen to their own body
Yep.
and then to create their own storyline or blueprint or map that's literally based on their own conversation.
You could just offer that as a course for men and it would be profoundly impactful, of just being able to slow down enough to listen to your body. But then when you add all the science on top of it and the new lifestyle, that's when it really becomes a game changer.
100%. And I can't tell you how many times I've had just messages from different clients over the years, and they've sent me a message such as, I felt like really dizzy today and I didn't have a lot of energy. And I looked at their food logs and I was like, you might want to have a burger. And their response was, what?
Yeah.
Well, you've been eating in beautiful moderation for the last 4 days. You've been active and you're likely at the bottom of your glycogen tank.
Yeah.
And you might actually need some fat, protein, carbohydrate, and iron.
Yep.
And you might need double than what you usually have at any given meal to replenish your glycogen stores. And in that example, that individual was a little shocked, but also trusting. Okay, you're telling me to go eat a burger. Okay. Do I have fries? I'm like, if you want, you should have fries. Allowing them to have that experience to notice what their brain is saying. Their brain is saying, oh my God, I can't have that. And then to do it and then to understand how they felt and feeling so much better, and that lasting for 3 days. And it's something that has to be lived to be truly embodied as wisdom.
Yeah, that's very well said. Before this program, I always struggle with binging in every facet of my life, from working to substances, but my daily nutritional habits was to drink as much coffee as possible, not eat, and then like wait until 2 when I'm crashing and getting irritable, and then stand in front of the fridge like a grizzly bear and just shovel random food into my mouth until I'm full. And then I would go back and want to take a nap. I would become like narcoleptic in the afternoon because I just shoved cheese and meat and random stuff into my mouth. And that wasn't working. It was just leading to the same crashes over and over again. So now with the balance of like actually eating 3 to 4 meals a day, the crashes are gone and the pangs are gone.
First of all, I'm seeing this whole cartoon scenario unfold of like a grizzly bear who's low in blood sugar and is standing in front of the refrigerator. And secondly, isn't it amazing how good you can feel?
It's incredible. Like, I have been able to cut down on caffeine because I just have a base level of energy. I can, when you're a dad and my wife and I both work for ourselves, like I used to binge and be like, I'm going to work all 8 hours here and shut the world off. But now I kind of work in cycles throughout the day built around my meals. So I do get up before them and I do a little bit of work and then get them ready for the day and then do a little bit of work and just kind of build around meals. It's almost like 4 quarters instead of one long half, right?
Yes, I love that. And that's also riding the wave of the energy that you would get from your meals. And it makes so much sense. And Lisa and I actually have a little workshop that we run sometimes where we go through the calendar and map out where we have the most cognitive function, the most hour schedule based on where we're going to have the peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And when we do it that way, instead of just gritting through and surviving on caffeine and nicotine, which I've been there as well, all of a sudden we just have sustainable energy, and we're also not trying to push into something that doesn't fit and just grinding ourselves into the ground.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy to me that I know that if I'm light on vegetables, my body's just going to feel cleaner on the inside. If I eat a big plate of vegetables, I know that if I'm lacking energy in the afternoon, I didn't get enough protein. And the minute I put protein in my body, it's like I can feel it readjusting. And if I'm also kind of in a little bit more like high anxiety state, I know that more carbs is going to ground me a little bit. And like just the fact that I know that, like, and I know how to input things into my body for desired feelings is like, it's crazy. It's like we know how to take care of our cars. Why can't we do this with our bodies? Like it's sad how little men like me know about this space. And so it's very important what you guys are doing.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you for the car
Yeah.
analogy. I don't know if you know my story and how I found all of this, but when I learned it, I basically sat and read this book. I devoured this book after an 8-hour workshop I had been through. And I hadn't been drinking or having any pizza, and I'd been on keto for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And I found this doctor who shared with me over the course of 8 hours the metabolic damage of ketogenic diets. And
Yeah.
then he had a whole book about macronutrients.
Yeah.
And I devoured it in 4 days. Like, kind of the first night, I was, like, sitting with a glass of wine, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been doing all of the wrong things for
Yeah.
4 weeks,
Yeah.
just dying on the inside,
Yeah.
waking up training at 5 in the morning. I wasn't having any carbs. It was, like, the worst." And then I implemented the science, and my body dropped 15 pounds in a month and a half.
Wow.
And I had introduced red wine back in. I was having pizza every Friday. Like, I was eating in balance, and I was shocked
Yeah.
because of how quickly my body responded, how easy it was, how I didn't have to restrict anything that I loved, but I just knew how to make it work for me.
Yeah.
And there was a period of maybe about a year that I was looking around at our health, our food industry, going, we are being told a pack of lies, and we
Yeah.
have been the whole time. And realizing how quickly the body can feel better. That's the whole reason that I'm doing what I do, because of what you're feeling, which you
Yeah.
told me over Thanksgiving is kind of like the force.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I do feel like there's a new energetic source code inside of me that had, for years, my entire life, kind of been ignored, and I wasn't listening to it. And now, with a regulated blood sugar system, I feel like what would you call it though? It's not your soul, but it's your body soul or your body consciousness. So Green Door needs a cool name for it, but it does feel like the force to me, and it can help me. I can listen to it, and it feels very attuned to who I am and where I'm going now. So it's pretty crazy to go through this program.
I love it. And it's really fun to hear you talk about your experience. And I want to share for you. What's really cool is that every year, about 99% of our cells turn over, which means that every year, everything that we're putting into our body, the input from nutrition to movement to sunlight to news to music, will all be fuel for the cellular turnover
Wow.
of 99% of our cells.
Wow.
Which means that every year we have the cellular potential to become a completely different body. And what I've seen in my body and in Lisa's body and in so many of our clients who have now been with us for years, when they find that language, that dialogue with their body, and they find what works for them, and they also stay flexible, because as we go throughout different periods of our life, our needs will change and we get to be flexible in the listening.
Yeah.
But when we develop the listening, every single year we'll have new compounding returns.
Yeah. Wow.
So your body, if you continue to implement it over a year, it's just going to keep compounding with the positive benefits.
Yeah, it is sustainable, and simple systems are the most sustainable ones. And once you get past the kind of some of the big scary nutritional words, and you actually understand what they mean, this is a simple system, and it's kind of like it's a no-brainer. And the other thing that's great about this too is the ripple effect, like the ripple effect of you learning it through the Green Door Life to men on the peripheral, who did your thing. And now that ripple effect is happening in my life with my wife and daughter and my family too. I'm able to kind of become, in a positive way, the enforcer of the kitchen and the curator of groceries in our house. Because when you start tracking your food, the cost or the value of everything, what it's doing to your body. So that ripple effect of just understanding it creates so much more intention behind your decisions, which then, like you said, compounds up to a better lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the family impact and the impact of those in our lives is real. Everyone in my life, my family members, my closest friends, everyone eventually does the program.
Yeah.
Because if they have never learned this information, once they start to just get to be in the environment of someone like yourself who they've been able to witness go through an experience and feel and look so much better, it's really hard to be like, nah, I don't want any
Yeah.
of
No.
that.
And you know what your superpower is not doing the hard sell of like being the cult leader. You lead by example. You just go, I feel really good. This is what I do whenever you're ready. And that's how I felt. Like it was 4 years of me not doing a green door class. And then eventually I came around. And now, I'm not going to beat myself up about waiting so long because it was the perfect time for me to do it.
Yes.
But yes, your superpower is just leading by example and just living by the things you're teaching.
Well, thank you. I believe in this aspect of my life, I am very clear. Coaching is a requested phenomena.
Yeah.
If I give out this information and advice and it's not solicited, it does not land well.
Yeah.
So I've learned that. I learned that very early on in my career. And so I appreciate that reflection and affirmation because it is intentional and it's a learned decision.
Yeah.
And like you said, it has to be the right time. I think the worst combination when you enter into something is if you're not ready and you feel like you're being pulled through it
Yeah.
or pushed through it,
Yeah.
because no one enjoys that.
Yeah.
And because of the level of support and attention and care that our coaches provide for each individual, whether they're doing a one on one experience or in the group programs, if the individual isn't ready, it's going to be a rough ride for everybody. So the readiness is a big thing.
And it's hard too. Like I imagine it's tough to sell people when they're just doing okay or when life is okay. It's when they kind of hit the crash and burn moments where you need to readdress your lifestyle. And that's what I had hit. But we don't need to fall apart to have a better relationship with our bodies and nutrition, right? I don't know how you sell that to everyone. I don't know how you sell, hey, you're at a B, let's get you to an A plus. Like
Oh,
I was hovering at a D minus, and I came in and got my grades up.
you definitely got your grades up. Yeah. You you came to the top of your class
Yeah.
for sure. It's an interesting thing. And at the same time, I'm holding it loosely. I think I'm going to take away what you have said already and what you showed me here, that there's a storyline and also we can be motivated by an archetype.
Yeah.
So, we can continue to be that archetype. And perhaps in that experience, it's not that you have to feel like absolute crap, but you can be like, I want to feel that way.
Yeah.
And it gets to be that. And so for the men out there who are going to be listening to this and who might feel stuck and tired and maybe overwhelmed and maybe like, I don't need
Yeah.
that. That's for people who are uh, top performers, maybe. I don't know. What's the one piece of insight or advice that you might share with them?
I think men need games and I think they need teams to fully excel. And this is set up like a simple game where we have homework and you come in and check in week to week. I know that on a week to week basis, if it was just me meeting with a coach, I know I would get onto that slippery slope and be like, you know what? I had a burrito on Tuesday and I had some beers and it's okay because I'm going to make up for it this day. But the simple structure of having men in a group all aligned on the same goal, the accountability that comes out of it, and there's no like shame-based motivation. It's just like I really came to respect the men in our group, and I didn't want to let them down. I will let myself down, but I didn't want to let them down because they're trying their best too. So I think men almost have to be kind of tricked into these games of self-improvement, and
Mm-hmm.
a team structure with a simple game and accountability was like the magic formula for me to fully integrate this into my life. And now you and Coach Nate kind of live in like this part of my head. And if I'm walking down the street and I really want a big deli sandwich or a burrito, I just see you two kind of going, are you sure you want that? And just that enough of a pause creates
Mhm.
some kind of intention around my decision. So yeah.
Yes. Well, next time you do that, you can hear the voice say, "Why don't you have half?"
Yeah, I'm not a half person. I'm all or nothing. We're trying to change that, but I have been an all or nothing person for a long time.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know yourself, which is very helpful. I
Yeah.
think that's another thing as you're sharing this, you're talking about how you are motivated, that you know yourself to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
And although some of those things we can change, it's also so helpful to have that self-awareness so that we can cater the type of support that we get
Yeah.
based on how we're motivated, based on what we know ourselves to perform and how we know ourselves to perform.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate that. It's helpful.
Yeah.
And what would you say was your main takeaway? Like if you had one or two, like what's the main takeaway that you got from the men's group?
I mean, tracking food through my Fitness Pal and just understanding how to read nutritional labels. Like my grocery store shopping's a little bit longer now, but I put music on and I will take time to kind of buy the right things. I think the biggest takeaway for me was just viewing everything as energy. And my body was lacking in energy and drive and motivation because I wasn't putting the right things into it. And when I put the right things into it, my energy changes internally. And then I want to be around other people who are doing the
Mhm.
same things and holding me accountable. And it's this like inside out ripple effect of like it all starts with food and gut health, which then goes to brain, which then ripples out to your personal life or your coworkers. And that was the biggest takeaway for me of that is the new cornerstone of the new version of me, that all my
Mhm.
cells turned over. I got everything new, but new teeth, right? Aren't teeth the only things that stay with you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yep.
So I got a
Mhm.
whole new body, but the same teeth. And I have a new cornerstone for how I live. And that was my biggest takeaway.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
an amazing takeaway. And I did have one more question that I actually forgot to
Yeah.
ask, but we'll squeeze it in here. How have you noticed your the way you show up as a dad and as a husband change?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always liked to cook, and I liked kind of winding down after a long day in the kitchen. But the kitchen, the groceries, the meal planning has become my domain. Like that is now my UFC ring, my boxing ring. I run that with an iron fist in a very lovely way. But what goes into our fridge, what gets thrown out immediately, it feels good to have my area in the house. That's kind of like, this is what I run. I'm going to make sure that everyone is eating well. And it's also for men who are on the fence thinking about this class, understanding blood sugar, if you're married to a woman, is one of the most important self-defense mechanisms you can understand. I know that if my wife, her blood sugar gets low and she's on her cycle, like I know we got to tread lightly. We got to make sure that we don't make mistakes. So understanding blood sugar and applying it to the people in your lives, especially your wife, it allows you to separate the problem. Like, oh, this isn't me. I don't have to take this personally. Something's not fundamentally flawed with our relationship. It's a blood sugar issue. And if I force her to eat some lean protein and some vegetables in the morning, we're not going to have this problem. So it's like, it's self-defense. It's like nutrition martial arts for me.
And and you get to show up as a provider in a whole new way
Yeah,
in that
that's
aspect as well.
yes, that's very well said. Yeah, and especially because I'm figuring out the next stage of my career, and sometimes that brings up some shame and guilt, and not having it all figured out yet at my age. And so taking over the kitchen and being like, this is how I'm providing has given me such a stable base of operations and purpose too. So
I love that.
yeah,
And there's really no other better way to support the body or the family than through nourishment.
exactly.
It's the grassroots. It's the true grassroots. It's the new hunting.
It's so true. It all starts there. It has
Absolutely. I
given
love
me
it.
such, not only embracing the data for a non-data brain, but now the ability to look forward and look forward not just in nutrition, what we're eating, but in other phases of my life, and applying tracking and data to other phases like managing money. So the skills that you will learn in Green Door aren't just about nutrition, they will transfer over to other modalities.
100%. Absolutely. It's something that I usually wait to share with people until week 11 or 12. And essentially, what you're saying is you can take the exact same framework and move it into any goal that you have in your life. Rinse and repeat and just move the titles around, and it's the same.
I'm literally moving from really getting good at my fitness pal to you need a budget or YNAB, and it is the same thing. Every transaction, you give it a purpose, and I almost knocked my mic over. It's easier now because I know how to incorporate it, and I know it's not a big headache to just every time you eat something or buy something, put it in.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So you're not waiting to do it all at one
Yes.
time and then feeling overwhelmed and like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. But
Okay. Well, is there
yeah,
anything else?
I just want to say thank you. I know how much work you put into research. I think it's very intoxicating and inspiring to be around people that have found their calling. Like, I
Mhm.
think as a storyteller and a writer, you're always searching, but then when you cross someone, it's like they've found their arena and not only found it, but mastered it and built a community around it. It's awesome to see.
Aw, thank
Yeah.
you so much. I so appreciate that. It's been a long time coming to this place, and now that I'm arriving here and seeing the impact in so many different ways and realizing, just like what you said, is that I don't have to spend 8 hours a day doing it. I
Yeah.
can actually figure out what I need to do in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that reflection because I am one of the fortunate ones that gets up and I love what I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're firmly planted in your zone of genius. So it's cool to see.
Thank you for that reflection. I
Yeah.
appreciate it very much. I'm grateful to be here at this point, and we'll see what happens next, you know?
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you are someone who is interested in this experience, you can go to thegreendoorlife.com and check out our work with us section. And the men's group programs, we run them about 2 times a year right now. They're 12 weeks. You have a live group that you meet with every week. It's supported by a 12-week education course that you have lifetime access to. And we also include strength training. So we program progressive strength training, and we are curating the training programs with your desired training that you might be doing at home. So, for example, Connor, who is also doing boxing, could then mix and match with some of the strength training programming, and we can curate it based on body type and goal specific experiences. Also schedules. Thank you so much, Connor, for
Thank you.
joining.
You got to put up a before and after photo. I'm proud of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Okay.
Absolutely. You just got to share them, and we're definitely going to put that as the cover.
Cool.
All right. Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
All
We'll
right.
see you next time.